Alright, a lot happening in this episode, and it's opening up with us seeing the executives of the Hero Association essentially discussing what had happened at the end of Season 2 with the death of Elder Centipede. He's being called Centachoro in the sub here. I don't like that name. Much prefer the original hardcore translation name that we got way back in the day, which is Elder Centipede. Anyway, we saw, of course, Saitama defeat Elder Centipede with a serious punch in that big, cool, iconic sequence. However, the world, and more importantly, the Hero Association, is not aware that Saitama is the One Punch Man the way that the audience is, so they just assumed that it was King that had killed him, because even though we had found out in Season 2 that King is actually a weakling that just has this incredibly powerful aura about him that allows him to put up this facade that convinces essentially everyone that he is ostensibly the strongest hero in the world. But now their focus is on Garo, because, he was the hero hunter in Season 2, and he was working his way up the ranks, taking out heroes and whatnot, but now he's gotten to the point of where he is a serious threat. Yes, he was technically defeated at the end of Season 2 by Bang and Bomb, but he was rescued by Phoenix Man and taken to the Monster Association, as we see at the end of this episode. And now the Hero Association is classifying Garo as a monster, no longer a human, and they're going to give him a disaster level of dragon. That's kind of like double-layered dialogue, to be honest, because yes, on the surface, they are classifying him as that just to give him the significance of the threat that he poses, but on the power scale, he is, at this point in time, essentially disaster level dragon, at least for the first time. During Season 2, he was kind of around that disaster level demon level, but now that he has recovered and gained his red form, I've called it Red Garo for years now. I don't think there's official designations for Garo's forms other than just Hero Hunter Garo, but he is in his red form now, and he's for sure dragon level, as we'll come to see. No spoilers. I also really love this sequence where this guy with the mustache, who I don't know if he has a name, but he calls out Blast. He's like, all right, if we're getting all these heroes together to go after Garo and also to go into the Monster Association to save Narinki's son Waganma, that kid that we saw kidnapped in Season 2, where he's just the big piece that the Monster Association has to lure the Hero Association to come after them. But he's asking, why doesn't Blast show up? Where's Blast? He's the #1 ranked hero. We've never seen him. He's supposedly all-powerful, right? I mean, if Tatsumaki is as powerful as she is, and she's just rank 2, then Blast must be disaster level god, essentially, right? Sitch is Blast kind of just comes and goes as he chooses. He's like a voluntary hero. We give him this special privilege because he's such a beast. However, if humanity is truly in danger, then maybe he'll come out. We had no idea what was going on with Blast at that point. However, if you read the manga, we do know what's going on with Blast, but I'll just say that we're not going to get into Blast in this season. So just take this as just a hype moment and more aura farming for Blast, if anything. But just don't get your hopes up, because we're probably not going to see him unless they shoehorn in a new anime exclusive sequence, which I don't think they're going to. So then we're quickly cutting over to the S-Class heroes that are being formed together for this strike team to go save Narinki's son from the Monster Association / I guess also take down Garo in the process if they come across him. We've got Tatsumaki, Pig God, and Darkshine. We also see Child Emperor working on the tech side of things, trying to pinpoint where the Monster Association is exactly. And that also ties into what Sekengar is showing to the S-Class strike team here with the whereabouts of Drive Knight. We saw in Season 2 that he was interrogating those monsters, trying to figure out where the Monster Association itself was. And it seemed like he got some leads, but according to Sekengar, he kind of just went MIA, and they just assumed that he's died. And that's all I can really say for now. Drive Knight is like an anomaly in the S-Class. He's very mysterious. We saw what he said to Genos in Season 1, hey, Metal Knight is your enemy, don't trust him. And speaking of Metal Knight, we actually see Child Emperor talking to him in this sequence here where he's trying to pinpoint where the Monster Association is, because he's like, hey, Metal Knight, I'm sure you know where the Monster Association is at this point, because we saw that one of his Metal Knight drones had clamped on to Elder Centipede and was taken down into the Monster Association. But then we also saw that he got wrecked, and he's revealing straight up that it was Orochi that destroyed him, and it was just one swift strike. He even destroyed the self-destruct thing in him. So technically Metal Knight does know where the Monster Association is, but he's not telling Child Emperor. And you're thinking oh, why is he doing this? Why is he so difficult? Because we saw in Season 1 that he was very difficult with Genos as well. When the meteor was coming down to crush Z City, Metal Knight probably could have put a lot more effort into trying to take that thing down, but he was kind of just doing a weapons test on it and then just bounced out of there while not really complying with Genos at all. And we're seeing that there is a reason why he is this way. He's just super pragmatic because he's saying, I'm trying to do what's right for justice. If I give you the information, you guys are just going to wind up getting yourselves killed. And Child Emperor's like, well, why don't you just join us? Help us with this raid on the Monster Association. And Metal Knight's like, well, that's kind of just stupid. Besides, I'm not really interested in the Monster Association. There's another thing lurking in the shadows that's waiting for the right opportunity to strike when humanity's at its weakest. Don't trust anyone around you. I wish I can tell you what he is talking about here, but it is just massive spoilers. But I will point out that I figured out what he was talking about way before it was revealed. I would say go back in time to like my 2018, 2019 content, but don't do that. Just stay with season 3. Don't spoil yourself. It's going to be a fun season. But he for sure isn't talking about the Monster Association. There for sure is another legitimate threat out there that rivals them or is even greater than them. Then we're seeing more Strike Team members enter the chat here with Atomic Samurai and his group, and also a My Mask. That's right, a My Mask finally like getting his hands dirty here. We saw him fight some monsters in season 2, which he references here. He's like, yeah, those monsters, interrupted my concert. So now I'm really upset and I want to join this strike team to go take them down. Also, I really like the dialogue exchange in here because Atomic Samurai kind of downplays a My Mask's strength, which is understandable because he is literally a class ranked 1 hero. But a My Mask is like, yeah, I may be that, but I'm doing that because it allows me to run things in the association more efficiently. It allows him to have better oversight over things because we saw in season 1 that he is almost like a pseudo executive of the Hero Association. I forget what his exact title is, but when we see Saitama trying to move from class C ranked 1 to B class, like rank 101, I think that was the highest rank in B, they specifically ask a My Mask if he's like allowed to do that. Even though technically within the rules of the Hero Association, if you reach rank 1 in your class, you can be promoted to the next class. So a My Mask does have power and oversight over the Hero Association and the heroes. And that's essentially why he's staying in class A, because I think if he goes to S class, maybe he'll just have more obligations being an S class hero or whatever. And maybe that would cut into like his idol duties or whatever, but also I guess that whole promotion thing, being number 1 ranked in your class, applies to the A class heroes in a way, right? But My Mask points out that like he could be an S class hero anytime he wants. And I'll just say that is for sure true. Then we see Puri Puri Prisoner getting recruited, and we see that he is potentially going to fight this Neon monster, who is one of the executives of the Monster Association, because we saw that Neon had broken into the prison in season 2 and taken some of the prisoners and like turned them into monsters with monster cells. Then we see that Narinki, the big investor of the Hero Association, the guy's son who got kidnapped and is currently in the Monster Association, he kind of gets like his own private team here and gives them like these power battle suits. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. They just instantly get low diffed, as we see at the end of this episode, and I'll go more into it once we get there. Then we're coming to Zombie Man. He's kind of just doing his own thing right now. Yes, he is trying to help the Hero Association against the Monster Association, but his investigation has led him to tracking down Armored Gorilla, who we saw from season 1, part of the House of Evolution, working under Dr. Genus. And that's essentially where he is going right now. We're probably going to see him intercept them in the next episode, I guess. Then we're finally coming to Saitama and his group, because Fubuki is just bum rushing his apartment and essentially giving them like the exposition that they need to get caught up to speed on what's going on with the Hero Association, the Monster Association, the strike team that's going on, and the help that they essentially need, and what's also going on with Garo. And we're also seeing that most of them are just recovering from the Elder Centipede / Garo fight from the end of season 2. Bang threw his back out, which is funny because he's so ridiculously powerful. Bomb threw his knees out, and Genos is like manually like repairing himself, and King and Saitama are just playing 90s Game Boy. Anyway, this sequence just ultimately leads to Saitama being inspired to go after Garo himself, because Garo is the hero hunter after all, and he's kind of insulted that he hasn't come after Saitama himself yet. Even though we know that in season 2, Saitama did encounter Garo just randomly by chance in that one sequence where he thought he was like a mugger and he just karate chopped them down into the ground. But this is ultimately just setting up the big, ultimate, inevitable confrontation between Garo and and Saitama. Because, you know, that's what this is being advertised as. That is literally what the first poster for Season 3 was. It's Saitama and Garo back to back. Then we're coming to Garo recovering and waking up in the Monster Association. Like I said in the beginning, this is like Red Garo. He is now ascended to the next level of power, I guess you could say. He also has one eye red, which we saw was kind of just like strain, I suppose, in Season 2 or whatever, but it's more so just symbolic for him being in between human and monster. We're going to go way more into that in like episode 3 or 4, so I'll break that down in detail once we get to it. Then he's walking into like the main part of the Monster Association, and we're seeing, like I said, Narinki's private squad just instantly getting low diffed by apparently this random samurai robot guy who came out of nowhere. We're going to get more into him eventually, but I feel like if I try to talk about this guy, I'm just going to wind up spoiling something, so I'll just keep it that he's supposed to be really mysterious. Like, if you're confused as to what's going on with him, that's good, because you're supposed to be. But anyway, Narinki's squad here ultimately winds up getting whipped by Super S. We saw her fight against Fubuki in Season 2, where, you know, Fubuki was ultimately saved by Tatsumaki, and Super S was able to get away. But her power is, like, she can whip you, and then you become, like, her slave, you know, for things. I mean, look at her. You know what she wants to do. And their suits, like, change. They become bigger, and they're just completely black now. And if you're thinking, like, oh, they look familiar, it's like, yeah, they do. They look just like the Paradiser suits from Season 1. And we know that Hammerhead stole those suits from the organization. Is this the same thing as those? I guess only time will tell. I mean, watch the season. I don't want to, you know. But now Garo steps into the fray here, and he just straight up talks to Giro, and we see that Giro is very interested in Garo and his potential in truly becoming a monster. This will be more explored in the next 2 or 3 episodes. But they're more so looking for Garo to prove himself, because they do want to make him an executive member of the Monster Association, which they also point out that the Monster Association's like kind of lacking right now. I think Giro specifically said they only have about 30 monsters left that are demon or higher in strength. And we'll get more into like the big roster of the Monster Association in the next episode, I think. But we hear Orochi finally talk. He's essentially telling Garo, like, hey, go kill a hero. Bring any hero's head to us if you want to, like, prove yourself to join us and whatnot. And Garo never really agrees to this. He kind of just leaves. Like, it's really jarring how they make this sequence play out. Like, they finish talking, and then Garo's just instantly gone, and then they're like, hey, Bug God and Royal Ripper, these 2 demon level monsters, like, hey, go investigate Garo, because he just teleported out of here. And that's essentially where the episode ends at first, but then after the credits, we're coming to Hellfire and Gale, the 2 ninja guys that we saw in Season 2 trying to recruit Sonic to the Monster Association. They gave him monster cells, and he wound up cooking them and eating them, and we see what actually happened with that, and I'll get to that, but we hear their motivations and the matchup that is essentially being set up for this season. They're like, hey, we want to kill Flashy Flash, because, you know, he's like a ninja just like them, so obviously there's a connection there. And yeah, that's probably where this season's going. But as for Sonic, he did eat the monster cells that they gave him, but he just wound up like diarrheaing it out, and it didn't affect him because he cooked them. And it's implied that if you like cook the monster cells, that nullifies them, and it just gives you like food poisoning essentially. But Sonic still thinks that he's like getting the monsterization power up from it because he feels lighter. But the only thing that really happened was he lost 2 kilos, which is like 4.5 pounds. But yeah, that is Season 3, Episode 1. I know there wasn't like action, a lot of still sequences in here, but that is how it is in the manga as well. It's just a lot of exposition, building us up for what the season is going to be about. I think the next episode is going to kind of be like that too. There might be a fight in there, but I can promise you guys that 85% of this season is just going to be awesome fights. You're going to get what you want. I can't promise that it's going to be beautifully animated. It's not going to be Demon Slayer, but it might be My Hero Academia Season 6 quality, possibly? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And also, guys, please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be covering this whole season, the rest of the year. I think we're only getting 12 episodes, maybe. If we're lucky, we'll get 12. And then I'll have follow-up videos to this. The next video I'm going to make is breaking down the intro, because there were some really interesting things happening in the intro that I need a whole video dedicated to talk about. And also just other spoiler stuff for Season 3 if you're interested in that. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this in the comments. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.